Hello curious fellas. Welcome again into another interesting video. In the heart of Kowloon, Hong Kong, there once stood a place like no other. A concrete jungle that defied the laws of urban planning, the Kowloon Walled City. Welcome to the densest city ever known to humanity. A living labyrinth that became a symbol of unplanned urbanization. With roots dating back to the Song Dynasty, the Kowloon Walled City's complex history weaves through centuries, evolving from a military outpost to an architectural anomaly. At its peak in the 1950s and 1960s, this settlement housed an estimated 50,000 to 80,000 people within its narrow alleys and towering structures. The lack of planning and regulation led to a chaotic collage of interconnected buildings. However, in the 1980s, recognizing the health hazards and social challenges, the Hong Kong government decided to demolish the walled city. What remains now are photographs, documentaries, and the legacy of an extraordinary urban experiment. Join us as we explore the intriguing history, architectural chaos, and eventual demise of the densest city ever. Sit back and enjoy. Kowloon Walled City. Kowloon Walled City was a densely populated, unplanned urban settlement located in Kowloon, Hong Kong. What began as a military outpost during the Song Dynasty eventually transformed into a chaotic and densely packed residential and commercial enclave. The settlement gained notoriety for its cramped living conditions, haphazard architecture, and the absence of formal government control. Following the Chinese Civil War and the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Kowloon Walled City experienced a significant influx of refugees from mainland China, leading to rapid and unregulated growth. The settlement became a labyrinthine network of interconnected high-rise buildings, narrow alleyways, and improvised structures. Largely unregulated by authorities, the walled city became known for its overcrowded and squalid living conditions. In the 1980s, recognizing the urgent need to address the living conditions in Kowloon Walled City, the Hong Kong government, in collaboration with the Chinese government, decided to demolish the settlement. The demolition process began in 1993, and the site was eventually transformed into Kowloon Walled City Park, preserving some historical remnants while eliminating the chaotic urban landscape. Today, Kowloon Walled City remains a fascinating historical symbol, representing the challenges of unplanned urban development, overcrowding, and the resilience of its inhabitants. The unique history of Kowloon Walled City continues to captivate interest as a testament to the human capacity to adapt and survive in challenging urban environments. Kowloon Walled City was a densely populated, largely ungoverned settlement in Kowloon, Hong Kong. Its origins can be traced back to the Song Dynasty, 960–1279, when a military outpost was established on the site to defend against pirates. However, it gained prominence during the Qing Dynasty, 1644–1912, when a walled garrison was built on the site. Over time, the military significance diminished, and the walled city became largely abandoned. In the post-World War II era, after the Chinese Civil War and the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Kowloon Walled City saw a surge in population due to an influx of refugees from mainland China. The settlement's unique and chaotic architecture evolved organically, with densely packed, makeshift structures constructed without formal planning or oversight. By the 1950s and 1960s, Kowloon Walled City had become notorious for its overcrowded conditions, lack of infrastructure, and absence of government control. Various illegal activities thrived within its confines, contributing to its reputation as a lawless and cramped urban enclave. The Hong Kong government decided to address the issue in the 1980s, and after years of negotiation with the Chinese government, a decision was made to demolish the walled city. The demolition began in 1993, and the site was eventually transformed into Kowloon Walled City Park, preserving some historical remnants while erasing the chaotic urban settlement that once stood there. The unique history of Kowloon Walled City continues to captivate interest as a symbol of unregulated urban development and the resilience of its inhabitants in the face of challenging circumstances. Unplanned urbanization. The unplanned urbanization of Kowloon Walled City was characterized by a spontaneous and chaotic development that unfolded over several decades. Originally established as a military outpost during the Song Dynasty, the settlement's transformation into a densely populated urban area was largely unplanned and unregulated. Key features of the unplanned urbanization of Kowloon Walled City include 1. Population growth. Following the Chinese Civil War and the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949, Kowloon Walled City experienced a significant influx of refugees seeking shelter in Hong Kong. This sudden population surge contributed to the rapid and unplanned expansion of the settlement. 2. Informal construction. The architecture of Kowloon Walled City was characterized by a lack of formal planning and oversight. Residents constructed buildings and structures in an ad hoc manner, often without proper permits or adherence to building regulations. The result was a dense and haphazard network of interconnected high-rise buildings, narrow alleys, and makeshift structures. 3. Limited infrastructure. Due to the unplanned nature of its development, Kowloon Walled City lacked proper infrastructure such as roads, sewage systems, and other essential amenities. Residents improvised solutions, leading to a lack of basic services and challenging living conditions. 4. Lack of government control. The settlement existed in a legal and administrative vacuum for many years. The absence of effective governance allowed for the proliferation of unregulated activities, including illegal businesses and construction practices. 5. Overcrowding. The population density within Kowloon Walled City was exceptionally high, with a staggering number of people living in a relatively small area. The unplanned urbanization exacerbated issues related to living conditions, hygiene, and overall quality of life. The unplanned urbanization of Kowloon Walled City ultimately drew attention to the challenges associated with rapid and unregulated growth in urban environments. The unique and chaotic development of this settlement remains a notable historical example of the consequences of spontaneous, unplanned urbanization. Denseness and overcrowding. Kowloon Walled City was infamous for its extreme denseness and overcrowding, creating one of the most densely populated urban environments in the world. Several factors contributed to this distinctive characteristic. 1. Population density. The settlement housed an exceptionally high number of residents within a limited area. The unplanned urbanization, coupled with a massive influx of refugees from mainland China, led to the rapid and uncontrolled construction of high-rise buildings and interconnected structures. As a result, the available space was maximized to accommodate a staggering number of people. 2. Narrow alleyways and vertical expansion. The unplanned nature of the construction resulted in the development of narrow, winding alleyways that crisscrossed the entire settlement. Buildings were constructed in close proximity to each other, often without adherence to standard safety regulations. Vertical expansion, with structures built on top of existing buildings, further intensified the crowded nature of the enclave. 3. Limited living space. Individual living spaces within Kowloon Walled City were extremely cramped, with many families residing in small, subdivided units. The lack of planning and regulation meant that available space was utilized to its maximum capacity, contributing to a sense of claustrophobia and tight living quarters. 4. Communal facilities. Overcrowding extended beyond living spaces to communal areas and facilities. Shared spaces, such as kitchens and bathrooms, were often overcrowded and lacked proper infrastructure, posing challenges to residents' daily lives. 5. Challenges to infrastructure. The sheer number of people residing in Kowloon Walled City placed immense strain on the limited infrastructure. Basic amenities such as water supply, sanitation, and waste disposal were insufficient to meet the needs of the densely populated community. The denseness and overcrowding of Kowloon Walled City became emblematic of the challenges associated with rapid, unplanned urbanization and inadequate urban management. The unique and extreme living conditions in the settlement continue to serve as a poignant historical example of the consequences of unchecked population growth and haphazard urban development. Infamous living conditions. The living conditions in Kowloon Walled City were infamous for their extreme and challenging nature, reflecting the unplanned and overcrowded urban environment that characterized the settlement. Several factors contributed to the notoriety of living conditions within the walled city. 1. Cramped living spaces. Residents of Kowloon Walled City lived in extremely confined spaces. The unplanned and haphazard construction of the high-rise buildings led to the subdivision of units into cramped living quarters. Families often had minimal personal space, with living areas reduced to the bare essentials. 2. Inadequate ventilation and light. The densely packed structures and narrow alleyways limited the penetration of natural light and ventilation into living spaces. Many residents had to rely on artificial lighting throughout the day, contributing to a sense of darkness and lack of fresh air within the densely populated enclave. 3. Poor sanitation. The settlement struggled with inadequate sanitation facilities. Shared bathrooms and kitchens were often overcrowded and lacked proper hygiene standards. The absence of a comprehensive sewage system compounded sanitation issues, creating unhygienic living conditions for residents. 4. Limited access to basic amenities. Essential amenities such as clean water, electricity, and proper waste disposal were in short supply. Residents faced challenges in accessing basic necessities, leading to a lower quality of life within the walled city. 5. Structural hazards. Many of the buildings in Kowloon Walled City were constructed without adherence to safety regulations. The improvised and often illegal construction methods posed structural hazards, including the risk of collapse or fire. The lack of oversight heightened the vulnerability of residents to safety concerns. 6. Overcrowded communal spaces. Shared spaces, such as staircases, hallways, and common areas, were frequently overcrowded. This made movement within the walled city challenging, exacerbating the sense of congestion and lack of personal space. 7. Social and mental health challenges. The stressful and confined living conditions took a toll on the mental and social well-being of residents. The lack of privacy, combined with the difficulties in daily life, contributed to a sense of isolation and stress among the community members. The infamous living conditions in Kowloon Walled City underscore the consequences of unplanned urbanization, inadequate infrastructure, and the challenges associated with accommodating a high population density within a limited space. The unique history of the walled city continues to serve as a powerful reminder of the importance of thoughtful urban planning and management. Demolition and legacy. Kong government. Recognizing the untenable living conditions within the settlement, the demolition process commenced in 1993 and was carried out systematically over several years. 1. Gradual clearance. The demolition was executed in a phased manner, with authorities systematically clearing the structures and relocating the residents. This process aimed to minimize disruption to the overall urban fabric of the surrounding areas. 2. Preservation of historical artifacts. Efforts were made to preserve certain historical artifacts and structures within Kowloon Walled City. The South Gate, remnants of the walls, and some historical buildings were retained to create Kowloon Walled City Park. 3. Collaboration with mainland China. The demolition required coordination between the Hong Kong and Chinese governments due to the unique political and historical context of Kowloon Walled City. The Chinese government was involved in the decision-making process, facilitating a collaborative effort to address the complex issues associated with the settlement. Legacy. 1. Kowloon Walled City Park. The site of the former settlement was transformed into Kowloon Walled City Park, officially opened in 1995. The park incorporates remnants of historical structures, including the South Gate, walls, and several buildings, preserving a tangible link to the city's past while providing a tranquil green space for the public. 2. Historical significance. Kowloon Walled City remains a symbol of unplanned urbanization, overcrowding, and the resilience of its inhabitants. The unique history of the settlement has garnered international attention, making it a subject of study, documentaries, and cultural fascination. 3. Architectural influence. The chaotic and densely packed architecture of Kowloon Walled City has inspired various artists, architects, and writers. It serves as a powerful example of the unintended consequences of urban neglect and has influenced discussions on sustainable urban planning and development. 4. Cultural impact. The legacy of Kowloon Walled City has permeated popular culture, including literature, film, and video games. Its distinctive urban landscape and tumultuous history continue to captivate the imagination of people around the world. 5. Urban planning lessons. The walled city's demolition prompted discussions on urban planning, highlighting the importance of regulatory frameworks, infrastructure development, and the need for comprehensive planning to prevent the emergence of similar unplanned settlements. In summary, while the demolition of Kowloon Walled City marked the end of a chapter in Hong Kong's history, its legacy endures through the preservation of certain structures, the creation of Kowloon Walled City Park, and its lasting impact on discussions surrounding urban planning and development. That's it for today, curious fellows. Please leave us a comment. If you like our video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you again with another video.